Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 14 of Charmed.
The Legend of Sleepy Halliwell.
Okay, this is our reward for getting through the last episode.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I love this episode. This episode is fantastic. I said it last time, but I'll say it again. We get Gideon. We get Magic School. We get the decapitation fetish episode. We finally get the fucking Chris reveal.
Yeah. It's weird how they packed all the good stuff into one episode instead of giving it to us periodically. I was so glad we finally got the Chris reveal. That had been going on too long.
Yeah, we were dragging our feet way too much, and they knew.
Well, like I said in previous episodes, it was getting to the point where I didn't know how we as the audience were supposed to make sense of it if we didn't already know.
Yeah.
Ever since the one with his backstory, I felt like that.
Yeah, it's obviously what they were going for with him. Why drag your heels on the reveal so long?
It is kind of strange.
Also, bizarre way that they find out about Chris.
Look, I like it. I kind of like it.
Oh, no, I like it too, and
I mean, come on. When has Phoebe's premonition ever been useful at all? Since, season 1.
I mean, it kind of isn't here either. Would you count her vision quest as a premonition thing?
Yeah.
You don't think it's something anyone can go on? Because, I feel like the girl who led her on it probably doesn't have premonition. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No, wait. That's a good point. Wait, yeah, never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, I don't know about. But you know what? Let's get into it. This is a great episode. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so this is the episode where they introduce Wizard School, which, I mean, obviously they had to bring in...
Are we getting ahead of this now?
Oh, I thought so, yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll talk about it now rather than when it...
I mean, just like in previous seasons where they were obviously aping Buffy, I think it's pretty obvious here when they introduce Wizard School that they're aping.
Wizard's Hall, a 1991 fantasy novel by Jane Yolen. Mm-hmm. I was familiar with this book as a youth. It's a pretty solid one and done about this, he's this kid who, he goes to a magic school. He's living an ordinary life with a single mom. He goes to this magic school. He ends up going to a magic school, to find his destiny or whatever. He makes friends with a really smart girl and this kind of, goofy boy. They become friends, and they have to fight this evil wizard who's using this magical creature who lives in the walls of the school to attack the students and teachers.
Not to say that that's the only Wizard School book. Obviously, there's The Magicians by Lev Grossman. But this is clearly not taking off that.
Yeah, and of course, The Unseen University from Discworld.
Right, yeah.
And of course, who can forget the, iconic Worst Witch series, which...
Classic.
Both books and TV show? Were they TV movies? I never watched them.
It started off as a made-for-TV movie that kind of spun into a TV show, the way they used to do that.
Yeah, I'm a little too young for those. I missed the cutoff on that. Apparently Tim Curry was in the movie.
I'm too old for them, but Tim Curry was in it, so I made time.
So, as we have clearly established, this is a well-worn concept at this point. Well, but you know what? It's a classic. It's a classic for a reason.
I mean, school stories are a classic. So once you introduce children into the mix, as they have with Wyatt, obviously we're going to get things like Magic School.
Plus, handy way to get him, out of the way that isn't just Leo orbiting him to White Lighter Land every 10 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, they did introduce the elf nanny.
Yeah, I feel like they dropped her.
They really did, but they had to do something where we as the audience aren't worried that Wyatt is going to get injured. Much the way... Magic School is basically the way that in Friends, after Emma's born, they're in Central Perk and Rachel's just holding the baby monitor. Magic School is the baby monitor that makes us feel like it's okay that Emma's off screen right now.
It's okay, she's with Ross's mom. But yeah, no, Magic School's a perfectly good location for this kind of show. And, it makes sense. And honestly, they don't talk about it much, but it also kind of makes sense that Grams wouldn't have sent the girls there.
Wait, because she I can think of a couple reasons she wouldn't have sent them there, because she feels like they are above that as the charmed ones, or because she doesn't trust other people at that point in her life, or
Oh, I'm assuming it was definitely a trust thing. Like, we don't, like, I legitimately don't think Grams has a white lighter. Like, when we went back, you know, to in the Hippie Grams episode, she did not have an active white lighter. I feel like Grams has always been a very independent practitioner, her coven aside.
yeah, that
But
makes sense.
but I can see her not wanting to rely on something that is, you know, Gideon founded magic school, maybe. I know there's a thing about it in the books, and it's been around since Atlantis or whatever. It was created after Atlantis blew up to help train something magic. But, like, magic school is clearly Gideon's baby. Gideon is an elder, a suspicious elder. His orbs are purple.
Yeah, and Grams is obviously not the kind of person who's on good terms with the elders. So yeah, it makes sense that she wouldn't send her kids to magic school.
Yeah. But at the same time, it makes sense that magic school exists. Although it really makes the charmed ones feel kind of less special when all of the kids at magic school have, like, charmed one level abilities. I get what makes the charmed one special is the power of 3, which means they can vanquish upper level demons.
But still.
Yeah.
I am glad. You know what it's like? It's like in Star Wars when we see Luke training, and he is the chosen one in the context of that story. But because he hasn't been training his whole life, like, he's doing basic youngling exercises, and then in the prequels we see, like, literal small children doing what he was struggling to do.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. We actually don't start at magic school. We start at some mundane human daycare where Piper wants to send her kid because she just wants to live a normal life.
They have one of those rocking alligators I remember from, you know, being a child. Those were very cool.
Yeah.
But, okay, I want to talk about the real villain in this episode, this rival mom who seems to be trying to verbally destroy Piper for no reason.
Yeah, another mom comes in to, like, mom shame Piper.
She's like, boy, your child isn't being very social, is he? You know, preschools pick up on that, and they sort out the undesirable children.
Also, she's, like, shaming her that she didn't sign up Wyatt for preschool, like, back when she was pregnant. She's like, it's too late now because, you know, the preschool determines the elementary school, and the elementary school determines the middle school, and then the high school, and then the college, and then the rest of his life. So basically, you already fucked it up. Your kid is screwed.
Yeah, also
Good luck with your next one.
Well, she says, like, he's clearly an only child. You can tell by how socially maladjusted he is. Look at him sitting in the corner playing by himself.
And then we know that this is just a... I'm just going to say it. We know this is just a bitch trying to make Piper feel bad. But I do just want to point out that it is developmentally appropriate that children the age that Wyatt is do not play with other children at that point.
Like, seriously, what are you talking about, lady? I mean, she's trying to get into Piper's head.
Yeah, she's... For, like, no reason. She's just shaming her for, like... I don't know, fun?
So, Phoebe and Paige come in because Piper wants to display to the preschool that Wyatt has a whole at-home support system, even though the dad isn't in the picture. And Paige rightfully points out, what do you mean Leo's not in the picture? He's in the house all the goddamn time. And Piper's like, well, yeah, but he couldn't do, like, room parent stuff, which he wouldn't be able to have done that if he was, like, a regular white lighter anyway. It's basically being a doctor. You're always on call.
Yeah. Right? Ugh. Meanwhile, though, it's not like Paige and Phoebe are offering all that much support because they're all in their own stuff right now.
Oh my god, they immediately launch into, oh no, my boyfriend broke up with me because he found out I'm a witch and now I have to give up on love. And Paige is like, fuck you. My boyfriend's going through this stupid Willow in season 6 Magic is an Addiction arc that I have to deal with now. He's probably...
Honestly, way more sympathy for Paige having to deal with that than Phoebe having to deal with just being single.
Yeah.
Also, but her biological clock is ticking like this. That was a reference to my cousin Finny.
Ah, tick, 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 tick. Yeah, Phoebe's like, well, I'm already basically an old maid since I'm, 27 in universe? Okay, I know we can't do this. But in season 1, when they met original flavor Creepy Dad, he asks if she's old enough to drink, and she says just barely. So we know that in season 1, Phoebe was 21. So she should be, what, 27 right now?
Yeah.
Like, you are 27, your biological clock. Good lord.
Oh my gosh, this is kind of a tangent.
Yes.
But over on TikTok, I was talking about the movie Timer.
Yes.
And I realized, because I just rewatched it, that the person who is concerned that she's not going to meet her soulmate until, because in Timer you know when you're going to meet your soulmate. That's what the timer is. Anyway, she's concerned that she's going to be so old by the time she meets her soulmate. And I hadn't watched the movie in a while. I'm watching it now. I realize she's going to meet her soulmate when she's 43. And I'm like, calm down. Anyway, I mentioned that in the TikTok when I was talking about Timer. And someone commented on it. Just so you know, 43 is old.
Jesus.
No, it just made me laugh. Honestly, that just made me laugh. But also, Phoebe needs to calm down.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not on TikTok. I'm afraid of being bullied by tweens.
I'm not scared of tweens.
But yes, Phoebe's being very dramatic about how this was her last chance at love, and now she's never going to get married and have a baby. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. Come on.
Also, you don't need to get married to have a baby.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
It's going to be your whole thing for like the next 3 seasons is you're just looking for someone to get you pregnant. Which you could have just gone to a sperm bank or like a magic sperm bank.
I mean, if the 3 of you are all going to live together and raise Piper's kid, like, why not just... Why bring men into the picture? It just complicates things.
Okay, Grams.
Hey, you know what? Woman had some good ideas. That's all I'm saying.
But Piper's like, shut up, both of you. The important thing is that Wyatt is a maladjusted child and I'm a bad mom. Look at him sitting there, not playing with other... Yeah, that's
okay,
far... He's like a year old.
Far be it from me to defend Piper, because this is weird. We've, like, switched places, because I know that you have all the Piper love, and I have no love for Piper at all.
Mm-hmm.
So far be it from me to be the one defending her. But they did just recently learn that the whole reason Chris went back in time is to keep Wyatt from turning evil. So it makes sense that she's a little on edge about it.
You know what? Fair. So... the thing that she really should be worried about happens, which is Wyatt just orbing out.
He just orbed home. He was like, fuck all of this.
Which, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can have your omnipotent god baby and not bind his powers, but the trade-off to that is you can't send him to regular preschool.
Right. If only there was some other place you could send him. Oh, okay, so they orbed home, you know, to grab Wyatt, and... a door has appeared in their stairwell where there was not previously a door.
Spooky. A man opens the door and he's like, "Oh no, he's coming!" And it's the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman just lops the guy's head right off.
Yup.
I am enjoying Piper's pregnancy hiding outfit this episode, which is just a very large scarf. I'm enjoying the large scarf thing. I think that's creative in terms of hiding pregnancies.
Yeah, it's a good pregnancy hider. Yeah, so...
and it's less obvious than the big ponchos.
Yes. So, yeah, the Headless Horseman lops off this guy's head, and the head rolls down the stairs and is like, "Hi, charmed ones, please help me."
Wah, wah.
I like the way that Piper and Paige specifically just completely no-sell it. They're like, that's Tuesday for you at the Halliwell Manor, which is fair.
Yeah, you just, at a certain point, you just kind of become numb to all the...
Well, I mean, you don't want to look like a tourist.
Yeah. Severed head.
Whatever.
So we have the opening credits, and then we have I think we've seen it before, fast motion, a bunch of fast motion shots of San Francisco. I feel like we might have seen this before.
We definitely have. This season is the first season we've seen it, but yeah, I don't know. They put in some new San Francisco shots that they're really proud of too, which I like. It breaks it up.
Yeah, we're having one of our long intros here. Lots and lots of stock footage.
But they did it fast motion so that we, you know.
So it tricks your brain into not realizing that they spent like 47 seconds just establishing that this show does in fact take place in San Francisco.
So Phoebe decides to do a favor to the SFX guys and picks up the head and puts it on a table.
Yeah. It's a easy to do, effect. So Piper's like, why are you not dead? And the guy's like, I'm from magic school, and okay, nobody can be killed in magic school. This is a very important, very consistent thing that holds all the way until the last season where demons break in and murder everyone. So...
We'll talk about that when we have to.
Yes, but as for right now, anything that you can't be killed on the grounds of magic school.
And since his body is still in magic school, because his body fell backwards...
I mean, maybe don't open the door to the place where you can get for real killed if the Headless Horseman is chasing you.
Well, he was specifically trying to get the Charmed Ones to come help him. When he opened the door and he saw them there, he said, "Oh, thank God you're home."
Yeah. And look how that panned out for you.
I mean, it does raise a question of, like, what is the big deal with the Headless Horseman if nobody can die?
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly not fun, but... They talked about
This
it.
seems like an internal discipline issue, though. Like, you need the Charmed Ones for this? Really?
Yeah, come on. This does feel like the sort of thing Gideon should be able to handle.
Wow, you know what? I'm feeling like this does not speak well of magic school. Maybe she shouldn't send Wyatt there. Maybe Gramps was right to not send them there.
Okay, I feel like the big problem with magic school, because it turns out that this is the work of a troubled student who just needed a good talking to, and I feel like Paige should join not as a teacher and later headmaster, but as the school's guidance counselor.
Ooh, like Buffy.
Like Buffy, yes. I wasn't going to, but yes, like Buffy in season 7, Paige's role in this school should clearly be guidance counselor.
Unlike Buffy, she's trained for it.
Yeah.
She's
even
as a social
qualified,
worker.
yeah. And like that seems like that would be more of like, I know she's been the study witch the past few years, but if these kids have been in magic school since childhood, then the most advanced students, who are the ones that she's teaching, would theoretically know more than her. Although, I guess, well, she has access to the Book of Shadows, which is, like, the big thing.
She's been putting in a lot of work.
I guess, and she is an adult woman.
And she's been getting a lot of in-the-field training that these kids haven't had.
Okay, this does speak to a bigger point. What is the point of magic school? Is it just about getting your powers under control, or are you expected to take these skills into, like, demon fighting?
Okay, look, I know we already mentioned the other magic school books.
Yes.
But I do have to say, that's like a big point of the third Magician's book.
Yes.
Is that once you're done with magic school and you have your powers, like, what do you do with them? You're like just some adrift trust fund kid.
Okay, I don't think. I know that I like the third Magician's book more than you do.
It's so boring.
Well, it's one really good book, which is about the heist.
Uh-huh.
And everything that leads into the heist.
Right, and the terrible stuff is the stuff I'm talking about.
Which is the sandwich around the heist story.
It's like, oh, what do I do with my life now that I graduated and can't go back to Fillory?
I mean, I actually kind of like those parts, too, where it's like... Well, I mean, that's the big thing we see magic users struggle with in the Magician's universe. Like, once you are outside of this very structured environment, you kind of tend to go nuts. I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase that, but like...
Well, but I think that's the answer to magic school here, too.
You just become, like...
I think you become a professor, or else you just go and do terrible magics.
Yeah, I was going to say the books did it better, but it's not something the show ever really touched on. So
I'm going to make my own Fillory with hookers and blackjack.
Yes, the Magician's Land part of the Magician's Land is bad, but like the bits where we meet Alice's parents and we see like what grown-up magicians do once they're outside of that system, and it's basically just like her dad has that thing where he's constantly like he's rebuilding the house and he's like creating all these extra dimensions so that it can be this like architectural non-Euclidean masterpiece, and like the mom is like doing all these war games with other, like,
And they're just oh yeah, and then in the TV show they're just hosting orgies all the time.
yeah, where it's a thing where, yes,
I feel like the TV shows give us a good look at Alice's parents too.
yeah, I like the TV show. There are a few things I think the books do better, but overall I feel like the TV show is probably a better experience.
I think the TV show's so much better than the books. I really do.
Well, I mean, the second one is just, and a lot of the third one, but the first one's really good.
Be sure to stay tuned for Welcome to Break Bills.
Or not. Charmed.
I really still want to do Welcome to Break Bills.
So, I really like Paige's sweater here. She's got this kind of like white wrap sweater thing.
Yeah, you know what? Everyone this episode looks really cozy.
Yeah. There are a lot of really cozy aesthetics. It's an interesting choice. Leo is here, speaking of the guy who's always here. Leo is here to explain what magic school is, and I do like how he's talking like they're supposed to know about it already.
Yeah, how would they know? How would they know what magic school is, Leo?
And Leo brings it up because he's, obviously this guy's from magic school. This is what magic school is. It's a school where kids learn magic. And Piper's like, excuse me, Leo, but I think that we need to be a little more focused on nursery school rather than magic school, which...
Well...
Yeah. If you're not going to bind Wyatt's powers, you can't send him to a regular preschool.
Oh, that's what
Or school in general.
That's what Leo says. He's like, I hear Wyatt orbed back, so I don't know what you think we're going to do.
Which, yeah,
Also,
points to Leo.
Also, he says that the Headless Horseman isn't supposed to happen because evil isn't supposed to be able to exist in magic school. And I just want to throw out there, like... This is the very first time a troubled kid has cast a spell. I'm not buying it. In fact, I'm so not buying it because, like, in less than a year, another kid is going to cast another spell and bring out Lady Godiva. Like, you're telling me, yeah, for different reasons than the kid who cast the Headless Horseman spell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're telling me that you've never had a problem with kids casting magic that they're not supposed to in magic school, and now you have two in less than a year? No, not buying it.
Yeah, I feel like this whole thing was kind of just an excuse to get the Charmed ones used to the idea of magic school so that they'll send Wyatt there.
Yeah. Oh, you think this was part of their recruitment drive? They were like, should we deal with the Headless Horseman, or should we, like, pull the Charmed ones in and ask them to deal with it?
They're like, this is a dumb problem. They can probably deal. Yeah.
They could probably handle it.
So they open the door to magic school to find the, professor's body. And Piper's like, so can we just stick you back on? And he's like, no. For some reason, the answer is more complicated than that. Okay. I really like a lot of stuff they establish about magic school in this episode.
Okay.
Like, he mentions the fact that the dimensions of magic school are unstable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're looking down a hallway and it seems like it goes forever, and they're like, is that an endless hallway? And he's like, yeah, it is. Magic school shifts itself around the people who enter it. So if there's something you're lacking, if there's something you need to learn, it will put you on the right path, it will guide you, and it will give you the tools you need to learn what you need to know.
I do really like that. And of course, we immediately see a wolf come and attract Phoebe's attention because she's got a lot of shit she's got to deal with.
Mm.
I also really like that Leo says that the guy who runs magic school, Gideon, was his mentor and fought to allow Leo and Piper to get married in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I like that kind of establishes that magic school might be something that is a little bit more liberal than what the elders want magic to be.
I do also like the fact that suggests that Gideon is someone who is comfortable pushing the rules, which will definitely come into play later. It's so weird that Gideon is the most complicated character that this show ever did.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. But you know what? That's fine. It's okay. Like, it's good even. It is good that they have a morally complicated villain in Charmed. By the way, we're just spoiling the whole deal with Gideon, but I feel like this
Oops.
podcast has been pretty loose with the spoilers. It's cool for Charmed to have a villain that's not, like, genetically evil, and whose goal is not evil. Like,
Yeah.
he is the one who's responsible for turning Wyatt evil because he had a vision of Wyatt becoming evil and tried to kill him.
Wait. But are you saying that the avatars aren't good, complicated villains?
Oh my god.
Just kidding. That'll be fun, though, when we get to them, too.
So, Gideon is in the room with them. Like, Leo has brought them to the central space in the school, and he's like, and here's Gideon. And Gideon's like, hello, all. But he's invisible until Leo's like, Gideon, your invisibility shield. And then
how embarrassing! He does say to them, I'm sure you don't remember meeting me, you were just little girls. Not Paige! Are you confused? Are you confused, Gideon, about which members of the Halliwell family are alive and which ones aren't? Just throwing that out there. It's fine, whatever.
Okay, so I really like Gideon. He's British. He's young. He's like older, but like young,
he's like 43.
old. Yeah, he's like 43. But, you know, he's a person who's allowed to be an adult.
Yes.
He is Giles.
Yes.
He's very Giles.
He's
right?
not as sexy as Giles, but
he's not. But he's
but
in,
who is?
He's in the same ballpark, but with worse seats.
Ah, that's great. I love that.
He's also British, is something I feel like we might be talking around here a little bit.
No, you said that.
Oh, okay. Well,
That
it
was the
bears
first-
repeating.
That was the first thing you said.
He is British, which means that he can say a lot of bullshit and make it sound cool.
Oh, you mean like days become night, night becomes terror when describing being stalked by the Headless Horseman?
Yeah, apparently it started with a bunch of kids casting fairy tale spells as pranks, and then it escalated to the Headless Horseman chopping people's heads off.
I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of fairy tales would have ended really badly, so I'm impressed it got all the way to the Headless Horseman before it started going really, really bad.
Yeah, like, I'm sure there are a bunch of kids who are missing toes and heels because of Cinderella bullshit.
Yeah, right?
But Gideon's like, look, the Headless Horseman is apparently a big deal. Like, it's a big honking deal. So if a student is using that level of magic to summon this specter, then that indicates that they might be being influenced by a demon. That somehow an outside force is turning one of our good students bad. Something you might be worried about too, charmed ones.
I just have to point out that, like, even magic school is not immune from satanic panic.
Huh.
Oh no, the demonic influences are getting our kids. I guess it's a bigger deal when there are demons. But yeah, no, the reason that the Headless Horseman shouldn't exist isn't just because it's the Headless Horseman. It's because this particular, like, magical construction is actually able to cut the heads off teachers. Like, they should be more powerful than something a student has summoned.
Yes. So he kind of gives everyone their own assignments. He's like, look, the school is sentient and it can communicate with me magically. So it's telling me, Phoebe, you need to follow that wolf you saw earlier. Paige, you're going to put on this black robe and you're going to teach our troubled kids. This is going to be an after-school special for you, Paige. You're going to have to flip a chair backwards and then sit down in it with your legs all wide.
Oh, I was actually thinking, that's so funny that you went there, because what I was thinking is that poor Paige doesn't know that they're sending her in to deal with the kids, and then as soon as she leaves, they're going to be like, no, if you don't want to turn out like that, you better study.
And Piper is being banished to the, preschool because they need those extra, need those charmed ones bucks.
Well, I mean, if the charmed ones aren't sending their kids to your preschool, what does that say about your preschool?
So Paige goes into the advanced magic class she's supposed to be teaching, only to see a dorky kid getting a telekinetic wedgie.
Yeah.
It's weird because there's a way more obvious loser kid in this class. He, conjures an apple for Paige, but for some reason this other kid who's got less dork signifiers is the big one they're always picking on.
Well, that's like at my high school, which was a gifted school. And so it was a gifted school. We didn't have sports teams. So there were no jocks, there were no cheerleaders. The cool kids at my school were the speech and debate kids.
I guess there also might be a power thing here. One of the reasons the wedgie kid is getting bullied is because he's a telepath, and that's a stupid power.
That's what I'm saying. This is magic school. The rules of who's cool and who's not are completely different.
I mean, if it's only mind reading, then even then, I feel like you wouldn't want to pick on the kid who can
right?
read your mind. Of course, this show also kind of doesn't seem to know how telepathy works. I mean, his power should be channeling, right? That should be. But
we really needed a scene like those scenes at the beginning of high school movies where we go and we see all the different kids sitting at their lunch tables and we get the rundown on who's who in the school.
Yeah, I guess you really wouldn't want to mess with a kid whose power is conjuring, though, because he could just conjure a bunch of X-lax into your stomach, and then that would be...
Oh.
Yeah.
Jesus! Anyway, Paige turns on one of the kids and is like, were you the one doing this? And he goes, yeah, it was absolutely 100% me. And then an identical kid walks into the room and is like, hey, stop imitating me to get me in trouble.
Yeah, and the guy shapeshifts back into himself. He's a shapeshifter. He's also white, and he was trying to frame a black kid for bullying, I'm not looking into the racial politics of Charmed.
But...
I'm sorry. Yeah, again, very unqualified to talk about this, but it does seem a little suspect that that's the kid you're trying to frame for this.
Oh, speaking of the racial politics of Charmed.
Okay, I'm, again, not qualified to talk about this, but I deem this not as offensive as it probably could have been.
Yeah, so meanwhile over in Phoebe's plot, she follows the wolf.
Yeah, and the wolf, turns around to make sure that she's still following it, and she's like, don't attack me, and it's like, it's clearly guiding you somewhere, Phoebe. Yeah. It's making sure that you're still behind it.
The wolf is like, hurry the fuck up, and she's like, don't attack! And it leads her into this, cave area where there's a fire,
and then the fire, explodes, and then the wolf is gone, and there's a girl sitting cross-legged, and...
Okay. The idea is that the wolf was the girl, that the girl transformed into the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of...
This girl is a shaman.
There's, all this Native American signifiers around her, and I will say the actress who plays her is indigenous. So... could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. And
honestly, it's the real issue here is fundamentally the othering of indigenous cultures by being like, ooh, it's mystical, but this is a show about magic, and other than that, I don't see anything else that's really egregious. So I think
this is definitely probably problematic. It's a native woman who's sending a white woman on a spirit
quest. A vision quest.
Yeah. But you know what? It could be worse. It could have been worse. It could be the Shakti and Shiva thing from next season.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But yeah, this girl, by the way, they should fire Phoebe and get this girl to be one of the Charmed Twins, because she's like, you have the power of premonition, but you never seem to use it for anything. There are lots of precogs out there who are good at what they do, and you're not for some reason. Do you want to maybe go on a little journey to figure out why that is? And Phoebe's like, I guess I got 20 minutes to kill.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Piper's being racist.
Okay, I feel like this is important because we kind of speak hyperbolically.
Yeah.
So I just need to be clear. The Piper literally calls these magical toddlers freaks. She's like, I don't want Wyatt to be in here with all these freaks.
Yeah, they're just regular ass kids. 2 of them are levitating. What the fuck is wrong with you, Piper?
She's like, oh, I just want Wyatt to be normal. Guess what, Piper? He's not, because you're a witch and so is your child. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, seriously, why are you calling these children freaks because they have magic? Your child has magic powers.
Like, really big ones. Remember when he summoned a dragon?
Yeah. So the slightly kooky kindergarten teacher comes in. She has strong Birkenstocks energy.
Yeah, yeah.
She tells them that she was attacked by, he who shall not be named, because she doesn't want to say the Headless Horseman's name.
And scare all the kids.
Yeah. But, like, she managed to escape because she has the power of astral projection. Suck it, Prue. And
she also mentions that, like, what she does is really important because she needs to nurture the kids and make sure that none of them turn evil.
Yeah, this whole thing feels very set up for Piper.
Yeah, it's very pointed. Okay, so the alarm goes off. The Headless Horseman is here.
Everyone's running around, screaming, waving their heads above the...
Ironically, like chickens with their heads cut off.
Hmm.
The headmaster, Gideon, is like, hey, Paige, by the way, now that you're a teacher, you're a target. Thanks, Gideon!
Well, I mean, apparently it doesn't matter because the Headless Horseman blorps in behind Piper and just cuts her head off, which she totally non-reacts to. Like, she turns around and she's like, oh, great, I guess this might as well happen.
Well, no, it's great because then her head rolls to the floor and then she rolls her eyes and it's like, fuck. What?
So, yeah, Piper's ahead now. They bring the head back to the manor and then Leo puts it facing the wall and then turns it around. Wouldn't that hurt a lot? Why would you do that, Leo?
Well, I mean, he did it so that he was holding a mannequin head with the hair covering the face when he put it up there.
Point. So Leo's like, "Do you want me to put you lower?" And Piper's like, "No, I don't want Wyatt to see me like this. Maybe that's what would turn him evil." Which,
I mean, he can see you on top of the cabinet.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have turned so that her head was facing the wall.
So Paige is going to go upstairs and see if she can find, a way to undo this. And Piper's like, hot alternate pitch, why don't we just murder the kid who summoned the horseman and therefore end the spell, probably?
Back on?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess is typically how this sort of thing does work in Charmed.
Paige is like, look, I've only met 4 kids, but they were all terrible, so I'm sure it was one of them.
Fair. Yeah, they're not letting every kid in her advanced magic class talk.
Though Paige just really hasn't had a lot of experience with high school kids. Like, I feel like you would suspect every high school kid of possibly doing this.
Piper forbids Leo from going to magic school to get Phoebe because Wyatt doesn't need 2 headless parents. By the way, we forgot to mention it earlier when Leo was talking about having Chris watch Wyatt. For some reason, Piper, Paige, and Phoebe don't trust Chris this episode, but Leo did, which is not the situation we left them at last time. Last time, everyone was trusting Chris because he saved Wyatt from that one morality reversing demon, and then Wyatt trusted him.
Yeah, but then Leo sent him off to, like, deal with some other magical stuff, and it was, like, out of sight, out of mind for the sisters, so they just lost all their trust in him.
Yes, but Leo still trusts Chris. A trust that is surely, built
to last.
Yes, built to last. He goes upstairs, to... they go upstairs to get Wyatt.
Well, to get Chris, because that's what Piper said, right? She doesn't want Leo to go to magic school and pick up
Phoebe.
Right. She wants Chris to do it so that...
Because Chris is expendable.
Yeah, because Chris is expendable.
So they go upstairs to get Chris, and whoa, there was a demon who was doing some sort of weird light thing with Wyatt. And Chris is like, look, I was just trying a thing, and Leo's like, get the fuck out of my house before I murder you. And Chris is like...
Chris is like, look, Wyatt didn't even raise his shield. Clearly what I was doing was not bad, or Wyatt would have put up his shield, which is fair.
Yeah, but Leo tells Chris to get out, and Chris turns to Paige for help, and Paige is like, oh, no. Don't put me in the middle of this, dude.
Funnily, I think that Leo and Chris have identical, like, frustrated anger faces. I just want to point out they both have kind of identical faces in this scene, which is appropriate because, of what we learned this episode.
Yeah. So, back at magic school, the girl is helping Phoebe out, and Phoebe's like, how do I know this isn't a trick? How do I know it's not you? And the girl's like, because it's not. This is a different plot. Don't worry about it. Shut up.
She does say that she's protecting herself because she felt the demonic influence trying to influence her. And she was like, yeah, no, fuck that. I'm not giving in to demons because magic's not an addiction for me.
She's also like, notice the thing that I'm doing where when an evil force tried to invade my body, I made it not do that?
Might want to work on that, Phoebe, instead of marrying it.
Like, seriously, recruit this girl to be on the Charmed Ones.
Phoebe goes evil so easily.
Last episode, regular ass ghost possessed her. Not even a special magic ghost, a regular ass ghost.
Anyway, this girl is sick of dealing with sober Phoebe, so she gives her something to drink.
Yeah, she's like, look, I made this hallucinogenic tea that will, force you to confront your demons, and then you can get past them and, be an self-actualized person. And Phoebe's like, I don't want to be a self-actualized person. And the girl's like, oh yeah? Well, what about this? You're not going to have a baby unless you're self-actualized. Tick, 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 pointing at your uterus, pointing at your uterus, pointing at your uterus.
Again, the hyperbole, but she actually does say tick, tick, tick and point at Phoebe's uterus.
So Phoebe's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just down this entire cup of hallucinogenic tea then.
Yep. And then
Phoebe can be influenced by a teenager going na 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 na. This girl manages to fight off the dark influence, and Phoebe's falling for I'm sorry.
This is why Phoebe shouldn't be on TikTok.
Yes. So Phoebe enters her vision quest thing, and she's in the manor, and a bunch of demons beat the shit out of her, and she blurps back to reality. And she's like, I didn't know I could get hurt. And the girl's like, self-reflection can often be painful. Also demon beatings.
So Paige orbs in and is like, hey, what's going on? Phoebe, who beat you up?
Was it the horseman? And Phoebe's like, no, I'm doing something different.
I have a different plot this episode.
And Paige is like, well, it's good to see you still have your head, unlike Piper.
I mean, does she, though? I mean, literally she does, but she's going on Vision Quest while there's a headless horseman running around chopping off people's heads. I would say Phoebe's head is not in the game.
Wow. Good turn of phrase there. But, Paige is like, so why don't you get out of here so we can, look up how to kill the headless horseman or find the kid who's doing it or whatever? And Phoebe's like, no, I'm having my own plot. Shut up and leave me alone.
She says Gideon, a man who she just met, told me to be here, so this is where I'm supposed to be.
Oh my god.
Phoebe is really, really susceptible to influence, isn't she?
She really is. She's lucky she's not in, a cult or
Isn't
a multi-level marketing scheme.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Phoebe would sell the shit out of Herbalife.
Oh, yeah. But she's like, look, I'm going to be in this cave. It's magically protected, apparently. This teenager told me that it was magically protected, so,
I'm going to do my vision quest. Just orb me when you need the power of 3.
Yeah, and Paige is like, remember, she's a student, which makes her a suspect, too. Although, I'd say this girl's at least, a TA? She seems like she's pretty advanced here.
Also, she seems older, but who knows with the way they cast things.
Oh my god, yeah, half the kids at Magic School look like they're in their 30s. Which, you know what? Better. That's better.
So she gives Phoebe another big bowl of hallucinogenic tea. Meanwhile, Paige has decided to bring all of her kids into the manor to interrogate them.
The manor where if you get killed, you just die.
Right? Exactly my point.
On one hand, I understand wanting them on your home turf or whatever, but, if something happens here, these children will die.
Way to teach without a safety net, Paige. I do like that a bunch of the kids are like, wow, Halliwell Manor. Because, the Charmed Ones are legendary and stuff.
I also like the different layers of school clothes the kids are wearing. Because some kids are in, uniforms. Some kids just have aspects of uniforms. And some kids are casually dressed. And I do like the idea of a school that has a school uniform, but one that you're not strictly speaking bound to.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting touch and does do a lot to tell you about the personalities of characters who don't really get to say or do all that much.
Speaking of characters who, well, not speaking of, so characters who do say and do things in Paige's class, they're like, oh my gosh, look, it's Piper Halliwell. And the kid, the one who can...
The shapeshifter.
The shapeshifter, whose name is Slick, by the way.
Boo.
Says, yeah, only part of her, though. And not the good part.
Dude.
Gross.
Yeah, but sadly probably not inaccurate to 15-year-old boys.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that these are all supposed to be 15, 16-year-olds. They're all in their 20s-ish. Except for this one dude just like in his 40s. And he has his hair like all blonde and spiky, presumably to make him look younger. But it just makes him look like Billy Idol.
He's got a bald spot.
He's got a bald spot. You didn't have to shoot him from that angle.
That's why when you're an extra on set, you don't piss people off.
Mm.
He pissed off someone.
So Paige is explaining to them that, like, look, no one's dead yet, so it's not a big deal that one of you guys definitely summoned the Headless Horseman, but, like, you know, come on.
One of the kids is like, is Gideon going to shut down magic school? And Paige is like, not yet, but one of you better confess.
And then they all immediately go all monsters on Main Street at each other. You like Sleepy Hollow. Well, you're a telepath. Well, you're a shapeshifter, so maybe you're turning into the... I mean, honestly, I would think it would be the Conjurer kid, right? Like
the
that.
Conjurer kid that everyone picks on?
Well, no. No, everyone picks on the telepath kid, which is...
you're right. I got it mixed up. Even though we had a whole thing about it, I forgot he was a telepath.
Well, yeah, which, again, it's probably because of the power thing, even though the Conjurer is way dorkier. But, you know, they all get into it, and Chris is, like, gesticulating from the side at Paige. And
Chris is like, Paige, I know you're in the middle of a lot of stuff, and you have a bunch of children that you brought into the house, but can we come talk for a minute?
And Paige is like, Piper's head, you got this, right? And Piper's like, what? So now Piper is left alone with the squabbling children.
Meanwhile, Chris tells Paige that the demon that he brought in was a demon who can scan for evil, and he, like, owes Chris enough that Chris trusted him, and he was just trying to get him to scan Wyatt and see if Wyatt's turned evil yet.
So Paige is like, how can I trust you? And Chris is like, because I've earned it. I haven't murdered anyone for no reason in, like, 5 episodes. I'm a good guy, but you know who's not a good guy?
Wait. Oh, that was a good segue. I should let you do this. But I just have to say, it was a terrible plan, Chris!
It was a terrible plan. Also, you should probably clear that with
right?
everyone else.
Just tell them, hey, but we haven't figured out what's turning Wyatt evil. What if we brought this demon in who can, like, check him out? They'd have shot him down, but that's because it's a terrible plan. Okay, who is a bad guy?
The Headless Horseman, who has come into the manor and he's just wrecking up the place. He's smashing things. You know, it's chaos everywhere.
They really should have closed the school door behind them.
Yeah, it's such a terrible effect. The sunroom window doors fly open and he runs out, or I guess rides out.
Mm-hmm.
And
so now the Headless Horseman is loose in the real world, and when he beheads people, now they're actually gonna die.
I love Chris's facial expression when he sees Piper's head, because he sees it and he kind of sticks his tongue out of the corner of his mouth like, And Piper's like, don't ask.
I do have to say, though, poor Chris is probably worried, like, oh no!
My mom needs to have her body, or at very least, her uterus.
Yeah. Man, I would be so nervous if I was supposed to be literally interfering with the future of my parents prior to my own birth. That's why Chris is the way he is!
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. So, Gideon comes out and he's like, hey, so you took a bunch of my students off campus to the place where they can die, and then the thing that's been killing people got summoned. So, last hired, first fired, or what's going on?
I mean, can she be fired given the fact that she was
press ganged into service?
Yeah, exactly.
So he does the like scanny thing that he does where he's like, he tilts his head all Matt Parkman like, and he's like, don't let your fears about Richard cloud your judgment of this situation. And she's like, I don't think I was doing that. But okay. The shapeshifter guy starts leaving, and Piper's like, where do you think you're going? He's like, oh, what are you going to do about it? You're just ahead. And she's like, motherfucker, I am Piper Halliwell.
She says, I have a mouth. I could still turn you into a toad.
And he rolls his eyes. We'll come back to this. So, in an alley somewhere, a guy is doing it's a mugging sort of, but he opens just firing on this guy, and this guy drops a briefcase, and
we just need to see that this guy is very, very bad, so that when the horseman comes and chops off his head, we don't feel too bad.
Yes. We see this guy attempting to murder someone for a briefcase, so we don't feel bad when his head gets cut off. Gideon and Paige blorp into the alley, and Gideon opens a magic door that the horseman runs through. So now he's at least
safe.
They
basically herd him back into magic school.
Yes, the Headless Horseman is now safely back in magic school, but it is too late for this, decapitated criminal.
Also, now that an innocent has died, magic school has to be shut down because that's the rule.
But after the commercial break, we luckily find out that the man isn't innocent. They're like, turns out the man was a wanted murderer, so I guess it's a morally neutral action to kill him.
I mean, that's not true. It's not okay to cut off people's heads. No matter what. Throwing that out there. But Gideon's like, no, innocent is more of like a broad term that just means somebody who's not a demon, so we're still on the hook. Still have to shut down magic school.
Unless we can find the person. The situation hasn't really changed at all.
It's weird because it's like, if they get the horseman contained, then Gideon can go argue his case to the elders. But he broke the rules. He's just going to have to argue his case no matter what.
I'm sure the elders let him do whatever he wants, though.
I'm sure the elders don't really care.
He's putting on a big production here, but I feel like it would take a lot for someone to take magic school. I'm sure the elders all have their own little pet projects.
Yeah. Speaking of pets!
Speaking of pets, we go back to the manor where Piper has turned Slick into a frog. Toad.
Sure.
And the rest of the class is rightfully terrified of her.
They're being very respectful of Piper.
Yes. So, Paige calls Leo for the sole purpose of having someone to help her argue with Gideon about the importance of keeping magic school open.
She's like, I know I just learned about magic school 2 hours ago, but it is the most important thing I've ever heard of, and you cannot shut it down.
And yeah, this whole thing feels really set up by Gideon to get the Charmed Ones invested in magic school.
Yeah, no, he got Phoebe going on her vision quest, learning about why she, what it is that she is supposed to be doing with her future. He's got Piper locked into that daycare, and now he's got Paige convinced that she needs to be the next headmistress and train up the next generation of magic. He
Yep, which, to be fair, he's giving Paige what she wants, which is a direction. We dropped the whole stupid magic jobs thing from the beginning of the season. Paige has been rudderless for a while.
And he locked into the way that she's the one who really cares about magic. And as somebody who wasn't raised as a Halliwell, she feels kind of a disconnect from it, and in a way that, she's not as connected to her past as her sisters are, so it will help her if she can connect to her future.
So, they hear a commotion coming from the other room. Piper has undone the spell that turned Slick into a toad, but someone grabs her head, they're screaming, and then everyone's frozen. Paige and Gideon and Leo enter the room, but all of the students are frozen. But Piper couldn't have done it because she's missing and also doesn't have hands.
So I guess they're not witches yet?
Okay, the thing about this that I was wondering is, are these students... I guess they are witches, right? Because they cast spells. Because I know there are people in Charmed who have magic powers but expressly aren't witches? Like,
Because just in case you're just tuning in, good witches can't be frozen.
mhm.
So, well, they can be frozen by Piper.
No, good witches can't freeze.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's because as students they haven't really decided if they're good or evil yet.
Yeah, I guess we talked a little bit about the 24-hour window where you decide whether you're good or evil. Maybe that kicks in when you're 18.
Maybe. Yeah, let's go with that.
Or when you're a fully trained witch, which I know Paige wasn't.
I assume like at graduation.
Yeah, you decide whether you're going to be good or evil, and if you choose evil, Gideon immediately sets you on fire.
There you go. All right, speaking of being set on fire? No, that's kind of a stretch. Anyway, back to Phoebe's vision quest.
Yeah, Phoebe has once again fallen out of a vision, having been beaten up by demons, and the girl's like, okay, look, you're really bad at this, so I'm going to have to walk you through it. The key is not to fight back. Like, don't fight the demons, just focus on getting to the other side. Focus to getting to the light. Everything else is just a distraction, because when she's having her visions, she's walking through the manor towards this golden door.
Mm-hmm. And she's... As soon as she stops fighting the demons, this... what is this, like the third or fourth cup of hallucinogenic tea? Now that she's not fighting the demons, they're basically just not there.
Yeah, she's walking and the demons are like trying to attack her, but they just fall right through her. Because there's something important on the horizon. Something that's more important than demons.
Phoebe.
Yes, Phoebe.
So she walks through the Stargate door, and on the other side of it is the manor.
Yep. With two older but still child boys.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I'd say like 8 and 6.
I was thinking more 10 and 8, but yeah.
And we see that, Piper is the mom. She's like, hey, Wyatt, let your little brother play with the video game. And Paige comes in, and she's a teacher at the magic school.
She's the headmaster of magic school. She's like, I have to organize all my teachers' schedules because I'm so busy as the head of magic school. And Piper's like, hey, Phoebe, how's being pregnant going for you? And Phoebe looks down, and she's like, "Huh?" And she's got a big pregnancy belly.
One of the kids is like, hey, Aunt Phoebe, I need your help. And then we crossfade from that child to the present where Chris is standing right where that child was and is like, Phoebe, I need your help.
Yes, the younger boy child is like, Aunt Phoebe, I need your help. And then just immediate crossfade to Chris. And Phoebe's like,
I think that even though they don't explicitly say it, I think that when she was in the vision, she had all of the knowledge of the vision, all of the knowledge that Phoebe, who lived in that vision, had, because she knew that it was a world where there were no demons.
Yeah, even though nothing they say in the scene establishes that there are no demons, she comes out of the vision knowing that in the future she will exist in a world with no demons.
So I assume she also knew and didn't have to figure out with her brain that Chris is the other child.
Spoiler alert, she never exists in a world with no demons.
Yeah, I think that it's a world free of demon attacks, like the way it actually is at the end of the series.
Yeah, because the series ends with demons just agreeing to not attack the charmed ones.
Just spoiling how the series ends.
Yes, I'm truly a monster. But yeah, the series just ends with demons being like, look, we've been trying to do this for 8 years, and you've destroyed every upper-level demon in existence. The underworld is just going to lay low until you all die of natural causes, and then we're going to try to kill your kids. And the Charmed Ones are like, yeah, okay. Why it's omnipotent, whatever. So Phoebe snaps back to reality, and, when Chris calls her, and the girl's like, hey, get the fuck out of my cave. I'm done talking to you now.
She's also like, hey, now that you've seen a vision of the future, do you think you can stop sucking at magic so much? Because you've been really sucking lately.
I legitimately do not remember the last time Phoebe had an actual premonition.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of the meta point this episode is making.
Yeah, but they already did this with the unfortunate Romani episode, like, what, last season? 2 seasons ago? Why is Phoebe sucks at her powers and is bad at them the reoccurring thing for Phoebe?
Hey, that's not the only reoccurring thing. There's also, will she or will she not give up on love? And now, when is she going to get that baby?
Oh, yeah, because this is going to be her big thing for the next few seasons. Not finding love necessarily, but finding baby.
Like, here's just a hint to Phoebe that I'm going to give her now. You don't have to pursue prophecies. You can just relax and let them come to you.
Yes. Like, you saw it, so it's going to happen unless you take steps to make it not happen.
Well, if you take steps to make it not happen, it's going to happen even harder. I don't know what happens if you try to take steps to make it actually happen. Greek mythology does not cover that. Anyway, Phoebe returns to the manor with Chris, and Paige and Leo are like, somebody kidnapped Piper's head.
I bet it was Chris because he's evil or whatever. And Paige is like, no, we're not doing that. Shut up. I'm sorry. Phoebe's like, no, we're not doing that. Shut up. So all of the students are frozen, but they know it's one of them. So Phoebe's going to use her empathy to figure out which one of them is just faking being frozen and therefore is the one who summoned the Headless Horseman.
Honestly, I gotta say, they've been standing frozen for a really long time. I gotta give it to them. If they're standing still that long, you know what? I almost let them get away with it.
Yeah. So Phoebe senses a lot of pain and trauma and social ostracization. She immediately goes up to the nerd first and she's like, this guy looks pretty nerdy. Maybe it's him. What do we think?
And they're like, oh, no. Within the social structure of magic school, he's not the nerd. Also, she's like, I feel a lot of anger. Do any of them hate school? And Paige is like, they're teenagers. They all hate school. Which just goes to show you, even if it's magic school, if you're a teenager, you're going to be like, fucking school.
Yeah. I hate having to learn to bend physics to my will. That sucks.
I don't know if I've told this story before.
Okay.
But I knew a guy once who was a sommelier.
Yes, you have.
On the air.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
You can tell it again, though. I mean,
okay.
It's a fun story.
No, I'm just saying. I knew a guy who was a sommelier, and he was like, ugh, work. And I'm like, okay, if your job is tasting wine all day, and you're like, ugh, work, then there really is no job that capitalism won't ruin.
Well, I mean, a lot of things are fun until you're forced to do them not to die.
No, that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
So yeah. Teenagers, even when school is like literally casting spells all day, it's like, but I have to be here and I have to listen to adults and my time is not my own.
So Phoebe's scanning, all of the children, and then she comes across the telepath and she's like, oh, he's telepathing a whole lot of rage right now. And he's like, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, the empath got me. Woo. And he blurps out, he astral projects away.
He wasn't ever actually there. He was always only astral projecting.
Yeah. Because apparently he's been using his telepathy to tap into other people's powers, which is not how that should work.
If Phoebe can use empathy to use other people's powers, whatever, it's fine.
Sure, okay. So, yes, he's the one who stole Piper's head. He's the one who summoned the Headless Horseman. He has fled back to or he was always back at the school. So now they have to, follow him back. They blurp back to the school and immediately get Headless Horseman.
Paige is like, do you think this might have been a trap? And then seconds later, they're beheaded.
ABO, Paige. Always be orbing. Also, maybe the two of you shouldn't have been standing within same sword swipe decapitation distance of one another. So
yeah, so now all three of the charmed ones have been decapitated.
Yep, they're just a bunch of long shots of the charmed ones' heads rolling across the floor. So Hey, decapitation fetishists, here's an episode for you.
Okay, I don't want to be criticizing special effects from Charmed, a TV show that was airing on the WB in the 90s.
Go on.
Well, I guess by this point it's the 2000s, but still.
Yeah.
The size of their heads versus the table that they're green screened on top of does not work. The heads are way too small for the area that they've been green screened on top of.
Yeah, what is this, a table for giants?
It's distracting.
But yeah, they're both, all three of them are just kind of glumly hanging out as heads on the table, and they all start blaming each other, and Piper's like, oh, look, little miss, I was having my own subplot, decided to finally help out with the main plot. And
Paige is like, we're not getting anywhere by arguing. And Piper's like, we're not getting anywhere because we don't have bodies, Paige.
And Paige is like, look, Zachary, the telepath kid, Zachary, clearly doesn't want to kill us, or he would have, thrown our heads into a vat of acid or something. So clearly he just needed us out of the way so he could do, get revenge on Gideon because he's mad about school being hard?
Phoebe's like, look, I sense anger in him at the school, but when he attacked us, I just felt sorrow. He feels really bad, you guys. He feels really bad about this.
So Gideon is back at the Manor. Gideon and Leo are hanging out next to all of the Frozen students, and Gideon's like, I really wish I had paid attention to his emotional state instead of just whiplashing him into being really good at magic. Maybe if I paid attention to him as a person, he wouldn't have decided he needed to decapitate a bunch of people to let me know he was being bullied. Which, words exist, Zachary. And even if they don't, you know what else? You're a telepath. You couldn't have shot him a little psychic private message there?
You know what else exists, though?
What?
Shape-shifting.
Yes, because Paige comes back and she's like, it's me, Paige. Or is it?
She tells them they all have to get back to magic school, and then they all orb away except for Gideon, and then Paige, shapeshifts back into being the telepath kid, because I guess he was using his telepathy to borrow the shape-shifting power from the... If you can do that...
Yeah, why were you getting bullied if that's something you're capable of?
This is a good episode, but really, his powers are unreasonable.
Yeah, so he telekinetically throws Gideon across the room now that...
Because he can do that, too.
Yeah, now that the two of them are alone together, so...
You know what he's like? He's like Zachary Quinto's character in Heroes.
Siler.
Yeah. Where he could just... He just absorbs all these other people's powers. I guess I could have used Rogue, too.
Yeah, well, he did it by studying their brains, which isn't what Rogue does. Although, it's kind of weird that in later seasons they established that he didn't need to cut the brains out of the heads to do that, but he just got into the habit of it.
Well, what I mean is, Phoebe's empathy power, she can only channel other people's powers when she's right there with them, when she's feeling their feelings and therefore their powers, because powers come from your emotions. But it seems like this kid can learn people's powers telepathically and then keeps them.
You know whose power he really has, which is not telepathy based at all, but Black Alice from DC.
Uh-huh.
Do you know Black Alice's deal?
No, what's her deal?
Okay, her deal is that she can borrow any magic user's powers.
Ooh, interesting. I see why also it makes a lot of sense, because I know that you were like, words exist. I know that you were just criticizing this kid for not just speaking up.
Being like, hey, I'm being bullied, really obviously. Can you do something about that, omnipotent guy who runs the school?
But given that we've seen that one of the things demons are obsessed with is getting various witches' powers, it makes sense that a demon would target this kid who has this kind of power set.
Yes.
So you know what? It all kind of does work together. Anyway, the Charmed ones have written a vanquishing spell because they all have their mouths still, so they can just speak the vanquishing spell.
Yeah, not having bodies doesn't really slow them down that much.
The Headless Horseman shows up, and they all chant their vanquishing spell.
Which they also throw in a bit about, hey, blow up the Headless Horseman and also give us our bodies back. Which, you know
Smart.
what? Yeah, concise.
And then there's an explosion, and they all have their bodies back.
Their correct bodies, even.
I know, right? That could have been a disaster.
Heads facing the right direction. Piper's like, come on, up and at him, let's go. So, back at the manor, Zachary's telekinetically holding a knife to Gideon's throat, which, Gideon is an elder, my dude. That is going to not do anything to him.
Right? He's an elder. That means he can only be killed by, like, a Dark Lighter arrow.
Yeah, for some reason. So, Gideon's like, hey, buddy, seems like you're going through kind of a rough one. You really didn't have to kill a guy to get my attention. And the kid's like, it kind of feels like I did, because you didn't pay attention to me until I did it. Also, I didn't mean to kill that guy, my bad. Gideon's like, whatever, he was a criminal. But seriously, why didn't you just talk to me about this?
Also, the Headless Horseman's only supposed to go after evil things. And Gideon's like, you think teachers are evil? And he's like, yeah, because they're holding me at a school that I don't want to be at, which is a pretty good point.
Yeah, like, he didn't want this, which, yeah, I mean,
he's a teenager. If he didn't want to be at magic school, he should have been offered the opportunity to have his powers bound and to just live a normal life. A thing which Piper is going on and on about all the time. Like, Piper should be the one who's relating to this kid. Paige is instead, but it really should have been Piper, don't you think?
Yeah, really, because, normal life or whatever.
But Paige is also the, like, trained social worker / about to become a teacher, so she's like, don't do it, kid, and he's like, okay, when you put it that way.
Have you ever thought that maybe you could have just talked to someone? Because
I mean, he does say that he talked and nobody listened, so.
Yeah. Which, yeah, you shouldn't trap this child at magic school. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. When you trap a child at magic school, you want a Headless Horseman? That's how you get Headless Horseman.
So we get a bunch of night shots of San Francisco, because I guess this episode was really running short on time.
Yeah.
And we're at P3, because it's time to wrap things up. And we're getting a performance by Ziggy Marley, which I'm assuming was supposed to be in a different episode, but wasn't, because Piper makes this really awkward, like, she says this line about how we were supposed to have him earlier, but things didn't work out, but we got him now.
It's really weird.
Yeah, which really makes me think that he was supposed to be in an earlier episode, and it just didn't work out or something. I'm not sure, but whatever. Who cares? If you're a big fan of Ziggy Marley, here's an episode for you. They do this whole song.
Yeah, they really feature him for a long time.
Yeah.
So Paige returns, and she's like, yeah, we let him go home because,
It turns out you can't just hold people against their will.
She's like, but you know what? I think when he thinks about it for a while, he'll decide he does want to be magic, and he'll come back to magic school.
Piper asks if she bound Zachary's powers, and Paige is like, no, because he asked me not to, and, if he thinks that he can handle it, then, yeah, magic school will be ready for him when he's ready for magic school.
But now that you mention it, I think I'm gonna go bind my boyfriend's powers.
Okay. Weird, but okay. Why wouldn't you just get Richard a job at magic school? He knows a ton of stuff about magic.
Because if he uses magic, he'll become evil, I think.
I mean, it's such a... It sucks that this is what they chose to do with Richard.
It really does.
But, like, because that would have been such a good direction to take the character.
Mm-hmm. But we don't see Richard this episode, so we shouldn't dwell on it.
Yeah. Who we do see is Chris, who I guess is still living in the back room of P3.
Where else would he be living? So, Phoebe goes back into the back room because she sees him, slipping into the room that I guess he lives in. And
By the way, I really like her top here. It's
I'm telling you, so many good sweaters this episode.
because it's like this half poncho, like, cape thing, and then she's wearing the rest of the sweater underneath it. So it's got this really cool layered look.
Yeah, it's a good sweater.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you in front of the most important plot thing this episode.
Yeah, she goes in and she's like, Chris, can I ask you a question? Are you Piper's kid?
And he's like, oh, I really thought you were going to figure that out earlier.
What he actually says is, I mean, I hope so. Assuming she gets knocked up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, like...
Credits!
Yes. On one hand, I feel bad for Chris. It sucks to be time aborted. But on the other hand, Chris, you are directly responsible for breaking your parents up. You had to have foreseen this as an issue.
Well, you know, between that and the thing with the demon scanning Wyatt for evil earlier today that just turned everyone against him, I think we can all agree that Chris is not a strategic genius.
Accurate. Very accurate. I just... You know, most of the time, you don't tell a child that he is responsible for his parents' divorce, but in this case...
Oh.
Alright, yeah, but this episode was a ton of fun. I really love this episode.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Should we do our segments?
Yeah, let's do our segments. Much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of three. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous. Is Gideon someone? Gideon feels like he has to be someone, right?
Okay, so Gideon is Gildart Jackson. He's been in stuff, but he's not like super famous. The thing that I thought was interesting is that he is married to Melora Hardin, better known as Jan from The Office. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I thought that was fun.
Well, he's attractive enough, so good for you, Jan from The Office.
My premonition, though, is Betsy Randall, who is the actress who was the kindergarten teacher.
Oh.
She is Mrs. Matthews, the mother from Boy Meets World.
Oh. Okay. The second power in our pack is Time Freeze. What specifically dated this episode? The Magic School concept.
I mean, everyone was talking about Magic Hall in 2001.
Wizards Hall.
Wizards Hall.
Which you should read if you can find it somewhere. It's fun. It's a fun little one-and-done Magic School adventure. But...
Or you can watch The Magicians.
Which is a different take on the Magic School thing.
And as previously stated in this podcast, the TV show is a more enjoyable endeavor than reading the books.
I like the first book.
It's fine.
And parts of the third book. Skip the second book. Yeah. So, the concept of Magic School was very of the time. I believe that will take us to the third power in our pack. Telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you? Nothing. I enjoyed a lot of this episode, but nothing, like, made me go, like... I didn't have an emotional connection to anything.
Yeah, same here. And I think that's probably due to the fact that I wasn't really into what was going on with Piper. And Holly Marie Combs is the one who's going to make me feel things.
Oh, I thought you were... I'm genuinely shocked that your heart didn't grow 3 sizes when Phoebe had a pregnancy belly.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. It looked like Maggie Liser's pregnancy belly in Arrested Development, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
They did not break the bank on that.
Oh, well, I had to spend all that money on the giant table to put everyone's heads on.
All right, so I think that'll about do it for this week.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. Our next episode is going to be I Dream of Phoebe.
Oh, it's another Genie episode, but without French Stewart. I remember liking this fine. It's sort of more of a paint-by-numbers Charmed episode. This might shock you, but Phoebe gets turned into a sexy genie. And she wears the same... Well, so... Oh, no, they already... I was like... They already kind of did that with the whole, you know...
Yeah, they already had her wearing Barbara Eden's outfit from I Dream of Jeannie, but I guess she's doing it again. The plot description on Peacock is A genie is freed from her bottle by Phoebe, who then takes her place.
I mean, honestly, if as far as mystic occupations go, being a genie seems like it would be kind of fun, assuming you had discretion with the wishes.
Well, I mean, as we discussed when we did the first genie episode, I realized that I would like to be an evil genie, or otherwise known as a vengeance demon.
Yes. You want to, harness the power of the wish to, etc., etc., etc.
Yep, that's me.
But, like, as we saw in the last genie episode, you have pretty free range to do whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Phoebe didn't even say, I wish. She had an I want statement, and the genie interpreted it, which, at that point, come on.
What are we even doing here? So I think that'll do it for this week.
Yep.
Our show is partially listener supported. If you want to be one of those supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, and Daniel.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode, or any episode of any television show, you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.